All right, welcome everybody. This is the Thursday, April 2023 regular village board meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Let's have a roll call.
Trustee Hallwax.
Here.
Trustee Listener.
Here.
Trustee Mulvaney.
Here.
Trustee Underdunk.
Here.
Trustee Rubin.
Here.
Trustee Vree.
Here.
We have a quorum.
And me.
And you.
We're live streaming this meeting, and we posted the links to the live stream on the village's social media pages. We'll make the recording available on the village's YouTube channel following the conclusion of tonight's meeting. The first item on the agenda is consideration of the minutes. The minutes have been circulated. It's the Committee of the Whole meeting from March 16th, 2023, and the Board of Trustees regular meeting also on March 16th, 2023. Are there any comments or changes on the minutes? And if not, is there a motion to approve them?
So moved to approve the motion, the meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. The next item on the agenda is public comment. This portion of the meeting allows for anyone in attendance to address the board regarding non-agenda items. And I'll ask that public comments concerning agenda items be made when we get to that place on the agenda. And all public comments are limited to 3 minutes, and we'll be timing you. Are there any non-agenda comments? Okay, I don't see any, so I think we've covered that. I want to skip ahead. We have our Cook County Commissioner, Scott Britton, here. And what I'd like to do is invite him to address the board. This is an item that was in the village president's report, but I'd like to invite him now to address the board about a proclamation that he is proposing. So, good. Welcome, and come on up.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Board of Trustees. I am your Cook County Commissioner, Scott Britton, newly minted. This is a new part of my district. It's the end of Edens, but I was lucky enough to take all of Beechwood Township into the 14th district, and lucky enough to be re-elected to this position in November. Unfortunately, about a year ago, I was going to get my Sunday paper, and I saw a bag filled with rice on my driveway. And I thought, that's a little strange. And I went over to it and I picked it up, and inside was the most vile anti-Semitic tropes food. And I'm Catholic, and I thought, this is a little strange. And then I find out that these packets have been delivered all over the North Shore, northwest suburbs, and then throughout the country. It is part of a concentrated, focused group who are constantly trying to again bring up, we thought we had eliminated in the 40s, but horribly pro-Nazi hate speech, particularly against Jewish citizens of this country. And I thought I couldn't just let that go, so we started an initiative called Cook County United Against Hate. This is our symbol, which is up on the screen. It is a symbol that stands against the symbols of hate that we see too often in our society. As I've often said, what used to be whispered in back alleys and in basements is now said publicly, sometimes on Twitter, sometimes on TikTok. And we now deal with this on a constant basis. And we hear it every day, where a young man probably is shot in Kansas City because of the color of his skin. We've had elected officials in Oklahoma waxing poetic about how they wish that there was still lynching in this country. I'm sorry, we can't let that happen. And the whole concept of this is that hate has no home in Cook County. And so I thank this board for considering the resolution that we have proposed, which will basically indicate that Glencoe will adopt the principles of United Against Hate. The concept is bipartisan, it is universal, and we can't get behind opposing Nazis. I'm not sure what else I can do. But that is the concept of it. It has been incredibly gratifying to see our faith communities united. I just came from the event of Violence for Hope at the Temple in Glencoe, which brings out violins that have been saved from the Holocaust, and to tell the story of everything that happened at that time, and unfortunately continues. I'll give you one last story that reminds me of how important this is and how important it is for you to join us. A group of 18 Jewish students in Buffalo Grove were interviewed recently, and 12 of them had recently experienced significant incidents of
for coming. Glencoe already has a welcoming and inclusive community pledge, which you can see there. By the way, and I guess one of our trustees says he'll give you a pen if you want to sign it, although
Glenview resident, so
it's
That's
okay.
okay.
We like ringers.
I'll do it in black. I'm on board.
Thank you. We have circulated and published in our agenda for tonight the proclamation pledging to join Cook County to unite against hate, which I think we're proud to do. And unless there's anyone that wants to say anything else, is there a motion to approve the proclamation?
So moved.
The motion has been made and seconded. With proclamations, we do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion carries, and we have it here. So, thank you for coming. We are proud and pleased to join in this, and we look forward to working with you on this and 1,000 other things. Oh. Sure. Yeah.
Can we take a quick picture?
Yeah.
It was going to be awkward as I was looking over your shoulder.
I want to make faces on the background.
Excellent background.
Getting out of the way.
Excellent.
Right.
Thank you, Rhea.
Thank you for
Yeah.
coming.
Howard,
That's his.
Oh,
Yep.
this one's yours.
thank you. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the report of committees, and the first report is the Committee of the Whole, which we just had. As Committee of the Whole, we talked about two things. The first was we had a presentation by the Friends of the Green Bay Trail on the work that they've done removing invasive species and vegetation on the trail, and on their plans, which they're going to share with neighbors to continue that work near Maple Hill Road. And the second item discussed was replacement of the garbage and recycling receptacles in the business district, and we got a recommendation for what we think is the better of two good choices to do that. So that's the report of the Committee of the Whole. Next report is the Finance Committee. Trustee Vree.
Thank you. We had our meeting on Tuesday and went through our normal meeting agenda, covered the village finances, and as has been the trend lately, village finances are in good shape. General fund revenue is coming in a little above expectations, though the timing of tax receipts, property tax receipts is, call it different because of the timing of all of our property tax bills. But we are ultimately getting what we expect from our property tax revenue. We also went through our community investment program, sort of a normal slate of capital projects coming, And then finally, we went through the village investment portfolio. It's entirely a high-quality bond portfolio that was roughly flat for the last 12 months. So, and that was our meeting.
Thanks for that report. Next, Plan Commission, Trustee Listener.
Yes, well, we're continuing to work on the comprehensive plan at our March meeting. The Plan Commission had a follow-up discussion about the feedback that we had received at our community open house that had taken place at the library. I think basically we concluded that the big ideas and the associated goals that make up the guiding framework for the comprehensive plan, it's right on track with kind of what the residents are focusing on. While the public feedback was largely positive, I think we realized that some of our ideas will need to be revisited during the course of the whole planning process, and with any adjustments and tweaks as needed. In the coming months, we're going to start with the process of formulating more specific objectives and implementing strategies for this big picture vision. This will include discussions on the topics including housing, sustainability, equity, and inclusion, and also some sub-area studies where we're going to focus on different areas of the community, including the highway frontage, the Hubbard Woods area, also the downtown commercial district, and the Green Bay Road corridor. So we've got a lot of work to focus on as we move forward.
Thanks for that report. Next is the Golf Advisory Committee. There hasn't been much going on with golf, but I'll let Trustee Hallwax see if he can think of something.
So the Golf Advisory Committee met on Monday. I was unfortunately not in attendance because I was on a plane, but I will give a report about what was discussed. If you remember March, the weather was not very favorable. It was wet and cold, but 6 days were open on the month, and so the budgeted revenues were exceeded. Open Kitchens is the new restaurant vendor, and now they are open, so they've got a full menu. Or the full menu won't be open until May 1, but we're excited about this new vendor for post-golf enjoyment. The Golf Academy programming is doing well, and with adult classes are at 75% booked, and then the junior programs so far are 50% booked. And obviously the big news was that the referendum passed, and that this was discussed at length, and the committee is eager to get working on the next steps in this process. So probably be a lot more discussions from me in the next couple of years.
Thanks for that report. Next is the Sustainability Task Force, Trustee Mulvaney.
Yeah, as usual, the task force is working very hard to make Glencoe the most desirable and sustainable community in the universe, and we are continuing to make progress this past month. A few things of note: the community, what things we're working on. The community cleanups is Saturday. It's called the Donate and Recycle Drop-Off Day, June 3rd. So please start thinking about the items that you don't want to go into the landfill and prefer to have picked up for reuse or recycling. This is coming up on Earth Day, Saturday, so please know that here in Glencoe, the Park District is doing its usual annual cleanup day. You can sign up on their website. The task force is advancing our action plan that shall be coming to you, but we are, I hope you all know, developing a detailed action plan for Glencoe sustainability initiatives. And you should watch our blog, read our blog if you don't feel like you're educated on what's going on in the community around sustainability. We have a continuously posting information that's helpful. And I would suggest here today, in honor of Earth Day, I'm going to put each of us on the spot. If you are willing to share one at a time what you are going to do this weekend on Earth Day to show leadership in Glencoe that we care about sustainability, If you're willing, I'm gonna go right down the road.
We're not
and
gonna,
you
we're
can
not,
lead us off on what you're planning on doing on Earth Day.
we're not doing that.
Why not?
No, we're not doing that. It's not, you know, we're all in favor of the earth, but we're not doing that. Anything else on sustainability task force?
Well, I would say I really appreciate what the task force is doing for the community, and I hope that they continue to push and that we continue to accept leadership in the ideas around changing our community behaviors and initiatives for the benefit of all.
Thank you, and because of your work and the sustainability task force work, we're trying to do that, but there's more to do. Okay, next report is the Council for Inclusion and Community. Trustee Rubin.
We met on the 12th because the holiday. Typically we meet first Wednesday of the month. Welcome to attend. It was a working meeting. We spent a lot of time going over various and sundry events and initiatives that will be coming up during the year. Of course, that includes second Sundays at the library in the afternoon. I encourage people to stop by and say hello to us and talk to people and raise your concerns. Just let us know that you like something we're doing or you don't like something we're doing. And we spent time, on how we see the speaker series that we did, that we promote, and the next one coming in the fall, and what the topic will be. And I don't know that we've finalized it, but I think we have, so I'll leave that for another meeting. But a lot of people have a lot of good ideas about events, including events, doing things with other organizations in the community where we overlap with what they're doing as well.
Thanks for that report. Last but not least, the Preservation Commission. Trustee Underden.
Okay. The Glencoe Preservation Commission met on Tuesday, April 4th, virtually and at Village Hall. The commission previously met with the Committee of the Whole and divided the remaining preservation recommendations into three categories: incentives, demolitions, and submissions. Under incentives, these include permit fee reductions or elimination for certified and honorary landmarks, as well as a more nuanced approach to zoning relief for new and existing construction. The goal is to allow new construction while protecting the character of the village. Submissions, the commission discussed requiring what specifications should be met with an application for external additions and alterations, especially those that are visible from the public right-of-way. And finally, demolitions. The commission discussed extending the demolition delay waiting period from 180 days to perhaps 230 days or even 360s, as adopted by many of our neighboring communities. Also discussed was the applicant-funded third-party review process required by Kenilworth and Lake Forest. A demolition permit application for a non-significant property at 260 Woodlawn was reviewed, while no preservation action was recommended for this structure. They do hope that we will do additional efforts to preserve landmark and significant structures. We also discussed briefly the status of the remnant fence pilasters on the Rubens estate on the east side of Sheridan, just south of South Avenue. The chairman provided historical information to the owner and suggested a donation to the village or the Historical Society of these remnants of the original estate. That matter is underway now. The next meeting will be May 16th due to commissioner availability. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that report. And I just have a quick question. I gather that with the, the proposal to extend the time before you can get demolition, that would require a statutory change, I gather. So at some point, there'll have to be a proposal, and then that would be submitted to the zoning commission. Okay.
Yes, they don't have a firm recommendation on the timing at
Right,
this point.
right.
Yes.
Okay. That covers the reports of committees. The next item on the agenda is reports of officers. And the first part of that is the village manager's report. Village Manager Crowley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. I've got a few items tonight that I just wanted to run through. The first relates to the fact that construction season has begun here in Glencoe, and it kicked off earlier this month. This year's $7.3 million worth of community investment program projects will see important infrastructure improvements throughout the community. Dave Mao is going to give just a brief overview of the work that's currently underway and a bit about what's to come. Dave.
Good evening. As Manager Crawley has noted, we've got a couple of things that are underway. This is probably as early a start as we've had in the last decade because we got a big lift this year with the amount of work to be done. The maintenance street resurfacing program, which is the second of 2 years that we're part of the 2021 bond issuance approval, includes over 5 miles of resurfacing on 24 street segments. We had a returning general contractor from last year, which is a good thing, just because we got their feet wet and the learning curve is established. Concrete work is well underway. That includes spot curb replacement. Most of the corner ramps are removed and replaced with accessibility requirements, and that work is underway. The work around Central School, we've got extensive work on Greenwood, Grove, and Park. That will not commence until after school is out in early June, but all the other street locations work is underway. Presently, we should see asphalt grinding begin in the next 7 to 10 days. The water main replacement project, which includes 3 locations, also started earlier this month. The first location, which is the largest and longest segment, is on Skokie Ridge up in the heights of the ridge. That new water main has been installed and pressure tested as of today. Following steps will be chlorination and sampling, and then they'll start tying in new services. There are new lead services on that segment as well, and we're working with the property owners to comply with the full lead replacement. I'll get to that further in a minute. Big spring and summer down and fall for that matter down at the lakefront. 2 projects that the village is directly involved in are already underway. The lakefront bluff stabilization and the access road. This is the section of the ramp between the halfway house and the water plant. It's being reconstructed, and both retaining walls above the ramp and below the ramp are being replaced. Work on the west side ramp wall is underway, began last week, and then drilling started yesterday on 44 drilled piers that will support that new curb wall. So it's quite an undertaking. This is a project that's in partnership, being done in partnership with the Park District, and it will be phased because of both grant stipulations and the Park District season. Only a portion of the work will get done here between now and Memorial Day. That's the work that's underway now. The ramp and the retaining wall on the downhill side will not begin until after it'll be bifurcated to allow the summer season to go on as planned. And then the second project that we're undertaking is a storm sewer relocation. We'll call it down on the village's property that is adjacent to the Park District voting beach. Same contractor is doing both the ramp work and the storm sewer, which is a plus. Then they coordinate better. The 2 projects will coordinate better. That work is going to get underway in earnest next week with the underground installation of this relocated storm sewer. And that work as well, because for obvious reasons, is targeting lastly, the lead service, we talked a lot over the last 6 months about lead service line replacement. The board recalls through the cost sharing program that was included in this year's budget. Letters went out last Friday to over 650 residents with full or partial lead service lines that outlined the IEPA mandate, provided additional information on the village's cost share program, permitting requirements, general information. Staff has been fielding a steady stream of inquiries that have generally been very positive, seeking clarification, understanding what's expected, asking good questions. The early read is great appreciation expressed that the board would consider offering a cost share program. So a lot of work to be done, and this will not certainly not be done in the next 12 months. We're lucky in the next 12 years we'll get through 600 services, but we can't finish until we start. So we're on the way.
Dave, I have a quick question about the lead service line. Did we also notify the few people where they're eligible for a look back?
The look back, that letter is yet to go out. We've talked to several that have called and have them on hold, and that will go out yet this month.
Okay.
A little different protocol. As we've explained to the few that have called, they will be eligible, but they will also be at the end of the line. As Trustee Melvin noted, we agree that our focus is going to be trying to get full replacements done this year.
Okay.
Depending on funding, there may be some of those that we pick up at the end of the year.
Thanks for that.
Any other questions?
I was down at the crib wall project today, and it's if you have a few minutes to stop down there, it's a fascinating thing to watch as they drill these 25-foot deep holes and then place the steel that's been fabricated for this project in place. They've gotten about 7 or 8 of them in place of the 44, and it's really a very interesting process, and lots of good work going on down there. So it's a nice partnership project with the Park District, as well as a nice use of state grant monies for something that's really a very important and critically valuable improvement for our access to the beach and to the water plant. So glad that project's moving forward. If you haven't already, please do sign up for e-news. We're doing weekly construction updates in that, and we are also doing quite a bit of information sharing on our social media platforms and, of course, on our website. And so please do keep an eye out for that, and we hope that the information is helpful and useful. I also wanted to turn to the subject of public safety. In the last few weeks, there have been a number of school security-related incidents, most specifically in our neighboring Highland Park at Highland Park High School on Tuesday, April 4th, that have also impacted Glencoe. While we worked to support our neighbors that day, Glencoe Public Safety was and remains in constant contact and partnership with District 35, the Park District, and other institutional leadership as these situations or threats are assessed, and outside of those periods, continues to work closely with leadership to preserve safety and security in our community. I've asked the Public Safety Director to speak briefly on these efforts, as well as to share some reminders about Glencoe's See Something, Say Something initiative. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Crowley. Good evening, everyone. Like the village manager said, due to recent threats to school security locally and across the country, I wanted to highlight some of the public safety department's collaboration with our school district 35 on the Park District. Building on our existing partnerships, we continue to meet regularly to develop proactive plans to support safety and security initiatives in the schools. Public safety works closely with school administrators to enhance the safety and security of school facilities and grounds, and when incidents occur, we work together to assess the threat, develop action plans, and communicate with the public. Public safety will continue to conduct threat training for all of our officers in the school buildings in conjunction with school staff. Public safety remains a visible presence in and around the schools every day. Officers walk through the buildings, monitor safety drills, patrol outside the buildings, and assist crossing guards and car lines to ensure everyone is following the safety practices. As partners, we continuously meet to review safety protocols and share information to ensure safety and security say something campaign, which enables everyone to anonymously report safety concerns. The key to the success of this effort is knowing who to say something to. You should always report directly to someone who has authority to address the issue at hand. The schools, the village, or public safety in most cases. These are the best sources of accurate, timely information. Saying something does not mean to share your concern on social media or other sharing platforms, as information posted on these platforms is not verified, is often inaccurate, and can lead to confusion and misinformation. And of course, please call 911 if it's an emergency situation. The village and the public safety department are committed to the safety of everyone, and together with the schools and the community, we strive to ensure that we are doing all we can to keep our community safe. Thank you very much. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks for what you're doing. It is sickening that we have to keep doing this, but that is where we live. Thank you.
It has been a unique several weeks, and I'm grateful to the chief and to Deputy Chief Purley and the department for the partnership that they've exhibited, particularly with District 35. There have been a number of situations, there have been a number of false issues, there have been a number of real issues that have come up around us and have impacted our community. I'm grateful for that commitment that exists between our public safety department and particularly our school district, but all of our institutions and partner governments. We met last week to review, we met last week with our partner governments to review many of the practices that we have in place to ensure that we are continuing to support one another appropriately. It's always an opportunity to learn. There's always an opportunity to do better, and we are committed to that, and we'll continue that effort as we proceed. But I do want to underscore one point that the chief made, which is please do reach out if there are issues, concerns. If a child comes home from school and has a story to tell about something that's happened, calling school administration, calling public safety, calling my office, calling somebody who can verify the situation should be the first step. And what we're seeing is a lot of social media sharing, which, as the chief said, does not always get us to the best outcome. We want to keep the community safe. We want to keep the community calm. And it's a difficult time to do that. And we respect that and are concerned about that as well. But it's, this really does take a village, and this is a community that really cares and bands together. So let's keep doing that as best as we can. I wanted to just briefly mention, and Trustee Hallwax shared, of course, that the golf club's referendum question does appear to have passed, and we will get certified election results next week. But based on what we've seen, there was support for moving forward with that golf club redevelopment project, and we're grateful to the community for really very strong turnout overall. I think that underscores this community's engagement on the issue. You'll see some things coming from staff to the village board in the coming months, and some of those things relate to architectural service agreements as well as some plans on how to move forward with this project over the coming several years. A question that I'm often asked lately is, so are we breaking ground in June or July? And the answer to that question is we're breaking ground sometime later in 2024. There is a great deal of work still to be done, a great deal of community outreach and discussion still to be had, and we will be undertaking that in the coming months. So look for more information on that project, but we are very excited to be able to move forward with it. Just a note, a programming note for the month of May. The village board's meeting schedule has been adjusted by 1 week. Moving forward, our meetings 1 week. The Finance Committee is scheduled to meet Tuesday, May 9th at 6 p.m. Committee of the Whole will be at 5:30, and Village Board meeting at 7 o'clock on Thursday, May 11th. New and returning trustees will be sworn in on May 11th as well. We're going to have cake, so I hope family members join for those trustees that will be leaving us and for those new trustees who will be sworn in that evening. We've updated all the village's online calendars to reflect the change, and we're going to make sure that we double down on sharing that information so that the community's well aware of that scheduling shift. And one last thing I just wanted to make mention of that we have been, that our staff participated in. Mental health first aid training took place for almost all of our leadership team and administrative staff on Thursday, April 6th. That's a partnership training effort through the Jocelyn Center as well as Family Service of Glencoe. It was a full day of learning, and in this time, particularly as our community still reels from the tragedy in Highland Park last year, we wanted to make sure that our staff team has the resources at its disposal to spot and help to find assistance for those in our community who may need it, and as well as for those on our staff team who may need it. And it was a lot of information that was shared that day. I came away from it with a much better understanding of my own responsibilities and my own issues and areas that I may need to work on to make sure that I'm a supportive individual to those I work with and those I serve here in the community. I know the Council for Inclusion and Community went through a similar training, if not, I think the same training, late last year, and we'd love to see this training continue to take place throughout the community. We're talking to the Chamber of Commerce about ways to share it with our business community and with our partner governments. So it's something we'll talk more about in the future, but I just wanted to underscore the value of that and express my gratitude to both Jocelyn Center and Family Service for being our resources in that delivery of that training. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has.
Any questions concerning the village manager's report? Well, apparently not. Thank you, Village Manager Crowley. Next up, item on the agenda is the village president's report. We've already done one little part of that, which was the proclamation we did with Commissioner Britton on Cook County United Against Hate. We have 3 other proclamations, each of which has been circulated, published in the online minutes, and reviewed by the board. The first one is consideration of a proclamation declaring April 22nd, 2023 as Earth Day in the village of Glencoe. Is there any discussion about that? And if not, I would ask Trustee Mulvaney if he'd like to make a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. The next proclamation is consideration of a proclamation declaring April 28th, 2023 as Arbor Day in the village of Glencoe. Again, that's been circulated and reviewed by everybody. Is there any discussion? And if not, I'll ask Trustee Onderdunk, who's just gotten a new job as our tree guy, if he'd like to make that motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. And the third one is consideration of a proclamation declaring May 20, 2023 as Mental Health Awareness Month in the village of Glencoe. Again, it's been circulated. Any discussion on that? And if not, I'm not going to pick on anyone to do this motion. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve Mental Health Day,
Second.
or month, I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Oh, there is. Oh,
Next page.
oh, okay. Yes, there is. Thank you. Last item, consideration of a proclamation declaring April 2023 as Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month in the village of Glencoe. Anyone have discussion on this? And if not, is there a motion to do this? Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes items that have been published online for the community. They've been reviewed by the board. And many of them have been covered by discussions by the Committee of the Whole. We don't think they warrant further discussion, so unless anyone disagrees, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, but I want to note first that there are 3 items that don't need extended discussion, but I'd like to ask the village manager to talk about items E, J, and L, and you'll see immediately why they get a brief discussion.
Sure, no problem. So item E is kind of the first step in a 3-step process that relates to the issuance of revenue-based bonds for our water utility. This was discussed with the Finance Committee on Tuesday night. In the month of May, this is really the enabling legislation that allows us to continue the process along. Next month, there will be a hearing that will be publicly noticed and part of the agenda for the May board meeting that will discuss at length the waterworks revenue bonds. And then in the month of June, we anticipate there being a bond sale and bringing those back to the board for its approval. This is part of our CIP and is planned as part of that of the next 3 years of projects. This will help to pay for our water main replacements, and again has been anticipated in this year's budget.
Before you go, the reason I wanted this one briefly mentioned is because even though this is a process that's been ongoing, it's been public, it's been discussed, the bonds are $4.6 million, and that's not a small amount of money.
Correct, and one point to make on that, these are revenue-based bonds, so our water rates are structured to accommodate the debt service costs, and so that differs from the referendum question that was before voters from the standpoint of general obligation bonds. So it's just one point to underscore that these aren't going to hit your property tax bills. These are paid for through water revenues. The other 2 items relate to a waiver of competitive bidding, and I just wanted to make mention of them real quickly. Item J relates to a proprietary project relative to our water distribution system and leak detection technology that goes along with it, which is the nature of the waiver of public bidding. And then the item L relates to the purchase of a Ford F-59 step van. As we've reported to the board over the last several months and frankly the last year and a half, it's very difficult to acquire vehicles at this point in time still. And this was a vehicle that we were able to source on a lot up in Wisconsin, and so we are asking to waive the competitive bidding requirements relative to that because of the difficulty in sourcing these pieces of equipment.
Thanks. With that explanation, is there a motion or any further questions on the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion?
There was one I just wanted to ask quickly about. It was on N, on the gas-powered leaf blowers. I remember that we had talked about all the multiple different options. I apologize. What option did we end up going with on that?
So the recommendations that came out of the Committee of the Whole discussion last month was to extend the current ordinance to accommodate the use of gas-powered leaf blowers only during 2 specific periods during the year. That period is April 1st to April 30th in the spring and October 1st to November 30th in the fall. There is a provision in the ordinance that allows for the village manager to alter the start or end times depending upon seasonality. But that's where the discussion landed last month. So that's how we worked that into that ordinance.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I think we need a roll call for this one.
We do. Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listner.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney.
Yes.
Trustee Underdunk. Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Vree.
Yes.
The motion carries. Thanks. That takes care of the consent agenda. The next item, this is regular business, and the one item there is consideration of an ordinance granting a special use permit to allow building in the B2 zoning district to exceed 33 feet in height at 63 Green Bay Roads, which is the Hubbard Woods Plaza, and I see we have the owners and developers here, and I'll ask Taylor Baxter, our Development Services Manager, to present.
President Long and the board. So, as a background on this special use permit application, the applicant received a building permit back in 2021 to build a 33-foot high two-story building to replace what's currently vacant site. Last year, the applicant approached the village about the possibility of increasing the height to 3 floors. One of the applicant, two-story building is just not viable at this time. However, the height limit in the zone is 43 feet, and the maximum variation, height variation in the ground was 5%. So, the 3-floor building is fine for So the applicant requested a zoning code amendment to increase the allowed height from 8 feet to straight to 35 feet. Last year, the adopted to allow a 45-foot high building in zoning district with the approval of the special use permit only in the southeast part of the zoning district. Since then, the applicant has applied for that special use permit for a 40-foot high, 3-story building, and as we discussed at the moment, the zoning commission has held a public hearing and recommended approval of the SUP with the condition. Review of the board and commission review process. The zoning commission had a public hearing and made a recommendation on this SUP petition. We are now at step 2 here, the board review and we will make a final decision on the SUP application. If it is approved, the planning commission will execute an appearance review that's required for any new commercial building in the B1 and B2 districts, regardless of whether it's required that two-story building. While you went through that process, if this SUP is approved, the appropriate will also do that process. To review, the building is on the former Walgreens site in the southeast corner of Walgreens Plaza, right on the village limits with Glencoe, just outside the village. This is a reminder of what the height limit is. Glencoe across the street, directly across the street, 4-story, 45-foot high building is allowed. There are various height limits needed in commercial districts in Glencoe. Typically, it's 35 feet. Single-family residential. So the height limit across the street. The proposed plans, I'm not going to spend too much time on these, they're all in your packet, but I'll just go through quickly. The proposed building is on the site of the Walgreens building and the Domino's, former Domino's, a small 1,000 square foot street, 80 feet north of it. It's outlined in red, the current condition of the building. This was a exhibit that was requested by the planning commission showing the proposed bulk of the building, outlined in red there, related to current condition of the building. I'll go through these quickly. We'll go back to the red and point west elevation of the road. You can see the restaurant building, the lower anchor building in front of it, which is a different corner of the parcel. North of the parking lot. South elevation from Scott Avenue, again on the left is a second parcel there. Then east elevation from across the board. There are 9 garage spaces, interior garage spaces, proposed as far as access off of the couple more views of building, south elevation on Avenue, east elevation, then from railroad tracks, floors there, interior of the site, southeast corner of the plaza, and then the southeast corner. Public comments that were received, summary of those. The Friends of the Green Bay Trail requested a shadow study to make sure this was casting on the shadows on the trail down there. This was provided by the applicant. After that was provided by the applicant, Friends of the Green Bay Trail staff expressed this opinion. We did get one public comment from a nearby resident in opposition to the project. The zoning commission, first zoning commission, here that adopt the ordinance for the SUP. You can adopt it as proposed, or with modified or additional conditions of approval. You can modify the zoning commission conditions of approval, add additional conditions of approval, remove conditions of approval as determined. You can also deny the SUP request to determine the appropriate or the incorrect consideration.
So, I understand that we've continued to talk with the owners about an additional idea that we've had. Can you tell us about where that stands?
That may be best answered by the owner. That has been an ongoing conversation. I don't know exactly where that conversation stands with
Can you describe the issue, and then we'll invite the owners to tell us about it?
The issue is, initial plan has access to the floor building, access to the ground floor from both Scott Avenue side of the building and the interior workplace parking lot side of the building. However, there is no access proposed, there was no access proposed, to the elevator, the only elevator in the building, and stairway to the first floors that would be accessible directly from anybody parking in that parking lot from the ground floor comes from the ground to the Scott Avenue side or the front end. Concerned that this not using the parking lot, say, example, the zoning commission shared this concern, or subject to that concern. That is why the recommendation of approval of this was conditioned on requiring the redesign of the building to include, at a minimum, stairway access from the side, those here, these plans will see from the applicant, one, and from parking lots up towards the top left of this slide, Scott Avenue is at the top. This would be a staircase directly from second floor, second floor, third floor. However, the elevator is still accessible from There's been ongoing discussion about potential elevator and lobby for access to parking lots.
And, okay, well, I guess we should hear from the owners about where they are on that. So welcome.
Being a few words yesterday, George Joyce in notified the police that he was concerned that there wasn't a better time this. We've gone through it, very fire drill, and while this wasn't the final decision for us, we are 100% comfortable with the right on that. And removing management costs. That's self-explanatory.
I think I understand it, but I've been briefed a little bit.
And I have some
Walk in
basic
on the parking lot and still hits the elevator from both sides.
Essentially, you have an internal walkway that takes you from Scott Street to the center. So you'll have, right now you have a lobby kind of position right next to the parking garages. You'll realize that going all the way to the west, and then you'll have the fence-on corridor that goes all the way back. So thought process and recommendation is that
Taylor, maybe you could answer this. Is that something we do? Do we do ADA compliance, or does the ADA? Okay. Okay.
I think it'd be very awkward if someone is parking, excuse me, I think it'd be very awkward if someone parking north private parking lot who has a disability, we have to run all the way down the road to get in. The other side of the street parking or the parking.
So if, would you be, I mean, we would like to see this developed. We know you want to see this developed. We also want it done right. Would you be comfortable with that as an additional part of the special use permit?
The hallway as a condition, yes. ADA restrictions or requirements, I don't know how to call it that.
If I may, further on, we could add the hallway condition. The ADA condition is something that you'd have to comply with anyway.
Exactly.
It's not, we don't need to impose it or put it in our ordinance.
Okay.
Well, the secondary access may be required, but it may not be required.
And normally, we would defer to what our building code and
I was gonna
the
say.
ADA interpretation
Right,
would be.
right.
If it is required, they'll have to comply with it. If it's not, we would not impose it above and beyond. Well, you could, but that's not how we would normally operate.
My recommendation would be that we do have the access in both directions.
Whether or not the ADA requires it.
Yeah, I expect that it's,
Consider that as
I
well.
don't know what the ADA requirement is. I mean, I know what it is, I don't know how it's reflected in the plan.
Excuse me, but if you're putting in the hallway, and then it's just a question of whether, I assume it's a relatively level or very gentle slope in and out from the parking lot. Is the only issue with the ADA the doors? Fair enough.
Right.
I mean, I wish I could have it.
Right. No, I regret.
I would just,
regret
I
we
would
didn't
just say
raise
that I think that your architect in the back of the room is saying yes, generally, to that, and, I would, this is, to the village attorney's point, this is a building code question. And I would say that the village's codes are going to prevail relative to the imposition of the Americans with Disabilities Act requirements. And that's a component that, and I'm looking at Taylor and we're trying to make eye contact on it. This is a part of the plan review process that would come when plans were submitted and would work through. I think the question relative to a full-scale connection from one side of the building to the other is really the first question. And I think what you've added to that, Trustee Underdonk, is as much as possible the further restrictions should be imposed upon that. And I think that's a question that, as we work through the plan review process, would be addressed. And I may be misinterpreting what your point is, but
I don't know how to structure it for me to be comfortable that we have wheelchair access from both the parking lot and from the street to the south. That would be, it's not only important for people in wheelchairs, it's people on crutches, having been through issues in my life and dealing with these issues. We know that about 12% of the population benefits from ADA enhancements. People have to go to the building, have to park south of the building, and navigate across a busy street rather than going directly into the park.
So my question, are we, mean, it seems like for us to add this addition, if this is an additional condition, and we don't know whether it is or not, we would be making some kind of a judgment that, which we haven't studied, that the ADA is inadequate and we have to have something in addition.
There's more to the analysis. We would be basically saying we're imposing this condition on, on relief that is really just based on height. The relief that's being requested, the building can be constructed, as you know, and this floor of the building can be constructed. It's only, the relief that's being requested is height. And the question, if the petitioner is not willing to go along with this and challenges us, the question that will be asked is this condition of an ADA or of a requirement to exceed ADA reasonably related to the request to exceed height? And that may be questionable.
I mean, it'd be helpful to be able to access the elevator from the north, or, yes.
But that's the question that you as trustees.
That's a personal experience, in my opinion.
Well, the change that is proposed as a result, that's been agreed to as a result of consultation with the village is you can access the elevator from both sides because there's going to be a corridor that goes all the way through.
And that was agreed to.
That's
so
been
it's
agreed
not-
to.
not a condition.
That's been agreed to, and we're gonna, and because it's agreed to, we can put it in. This additional idea, which may or may not be additional, that is, we don't know, because we don't know what the ADA requires. But like I said, I'm not aware of any information, and I've not seen any that suggests that Glencoe should determine the ADA is inadequate and we have to do something extra. And we haven't talked to the owners about this, and I just don't think it's the right thing to do at this juncture. We've got the ADA is there. We're going to make sure it's complied with as part of our process, and I wouldn't require anything extra on that score.
I have a slightly different point of view. While I'm very much in favor of the development, I think it's important that we go forward. Just an hour ago, we celebrated our welcoming comment, which was to welcome all. And at the moment, it sounds like it's possible that we may have a building that does not welcome those folks. Is that not right?
I don't
agree
think we
with
could,
that.
I don't think we.
It's
Wha-
got to be ADA compliant. I mean, by definition.
Right,
No,
we
so,
don't.
so the entrance does not have to be ADA compliant, the building does, right? So if you have an ADA compliant on the south side but not on the north side, what if that's the case, we're basically saying, if you're not able to open the door, go to Winnetka. If
Like
that's
I
the
said,
case.
I don't know that that's, like I said, I don't know that that's true. I mean,
I don't either, and I'm
just
saying
making it
under
up.
that scenario, I'm not making it up, if that is a real scenario where the north door is not ADA compliant, then essentially we are saying if you cannot open a door, you must go to Winnetka. That is not consistent with our welcoming message, which we just had someone sign.
But because.
It's a hypothetical. I
don't
totally
think
agree.
it's-
I'm
but-
just
but
totally agree
Pete,
with
I don't
that.
think it's a reasonable hypothetical because because of what Glencoe has sort of encouraged and now the owners are agreeing to, is that there is going to be a corridor so that you can get to the elevator from either side.
And the reason we're doing it is because Winnetka asked us to. It's not, it wasn't an ADA question. This is Winnetka because they didn't want us parking in Winnetka.
So, but which on either side, where if you park, you can get to the elevator, and if it turns out, and again, I don't know this, I don't know what the ADA requires, but if it turns out that ADA, you'd have to go in one of the places, you could still get to the elevator in an enclosed space, and I think that's lovely. So, like I said, I'm very,
I guess I don't
I'm in favor of the
understand
ADA,
it.
but I'm very uncomfortable with imposing imposing some hypothetical requirement that we haven't investigated, we don't have any ordinances about it, we don't know anything about it, and then we're gonna say, but you have to do it.
That may not be related to the relief
That,
being requested.
that if we
Yeah, so
did it,
let-
and
let-
they got mad at us, they might say, And
So let
then
me say, unrelated to the agreement on the height restriction, I have no qualms about that, and I'm happy to vote for that. However, I don't think that we should have a building that can't be accessed by handicap from the north. That's what I'm saying. This corridor, I think I heard him say that the corridor would be ADA compliant, but not necessarily the door, which essentially makes the corridor unusable if you're not able to
no,
open
you
the door.
have to use it from the other side. It's not unusable, you just have to use it from the other parking that's provided.
But you have to go around the building, and you have to go to an ECA, right? I mean, you literally have to go to an ECA.
On-site parking for the structure is on the north side.
And the door is on the south side.
Right, and if you have the one on the south side, I would just agree, I think would be a better, obviously, if you have a good entrance on the north side and on the south side, because let's face it, your parking is on the north side, the rest of your retail amenities on the north side, and you don't want that to look like a back entrance. You want a good south side presence and you want a good north side presence, so whatever you do aesthetically and it needs to be of the scale that could accommodate similar to what you would accommodate on the south side. As you connect the building, and to make your development better, and to get you higher rents. You know, when you have this accessibility to your elevator. Because that's, you know, that's gonna be a draw for your tenants.
I think that's a smart thing. I don't know how the additional restrictions on the request, based on something that we haven't gone through the process. I don't know what all the DDA working. It feels as an applicant, it feels somewhat heavy-handed to put restrictions on hypotheticals. Whatever they, I'm not saying I disagree with it, I'm not saying I'm not agree with it. I don't see the logic. I just don't know how, we're here to get my commitment sorry. I wanted to give you my commitment that the hallway, you heard your comments yesterday, and we had a fire drill and we did all, I sort of would like to keep it in the eyes and we haven't even thought about it. So take a strong amendment tonight. Hope that we can provide every single thing we can.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. If there's a process, a separate process for those requirements, I don't have any issue with agreeing to the height restrictions. I do, however, think it's important that we, have at somewhere along the stage here, think about that access. That's really, to me, contrary to what we just said an hour ago.
Questions for Aaron? Is there a way we can structure this as a conditional?
Well, it is, this is I'm sure, not trying to put it correctly, this is going to be,
Condition on this.
and
it may not even apply.
right, as I understand what Trustee Underduck, what you'd like to add is a condition that says, whether or not the ADA requires this, widened door, it shall be a requirement. And I appreciate that, and I think, President Roden, you just have to see where your board is on that, is that additional condition. The other condition about putting in the hallway altogether
Agreed.
has already been agreed to, and that can go in. So you can perhaps take these in two parts. That, I don't see any other way. I mean, you have the ability to ask at this particular point that the board consider imposing that as a condition. that I would say as your attorney is there could be a concern, if challenged, that this additional ADA requirement is not, there's not a nexus between that and the relief being requested. We are sitting here responding to a request for relief to our height regulation. And you're saying we will agree to provide you that extra height if you make a hallway door wider. There may not necessarily be a connection there. There may not be a connection between that and putting in the hallway either, but they've agreed to that, so that's not, we don't have to worry about that connection. They volunteered it.
And it may be a moot point when the ADA review goes through the building.
But the other alternative is to simply wait, defer this, and I'm just saying, while we research and determine whether it's required, and then you can determine, then you can take your vote, knowing that the ADA does it or not.
And we have, we should just acknowledge, we have deferred this a few times. Nobody's fault. Winnetka came in and griped, and we want to take account of that. And I want to be fair to the serious points made by members of the village board. I want to be fair to the applicants, so this is not a forever process. We want to avoid some kind of Dickensian administrative review here that goes on for lifetimes. And I don't know where I note that there was some consultation in the owner architect group. I don't know whether you're prepared to say anything or whether you could stand to wait another month or what. And I haven't successfully counted the votes. It's
Well, I think it's worth saying a couple of things. We're talking about what is essentially an administrative process where our hands are tied relative to federal law. And Taylor and I are just talking. Unfortunately, in this immediate moment, we can't speak to the exact nature of every aspect of what's being discussed. That being said, there are fire code provisions that tie to ADA compliance. The width of doors isn't something that is adjustable from that standpoint. You have minimums on widths of doors, and those minimums are within ADA standards. I think to a certain degree, we may be arguing over nothing, because I think the reality is the code is going to apply in the way that the board is hoping that it will. I just don't have my building code official sitting in the room right now to be able to say that with absolute certainty. But I'm quite confident that we have those provisions within our building standards already.
Do we have the power as a non-home rule unit to a super ADA? Could we do that?
Well, I don't know what a super ADA is.
It's not even a home rule versus non-home rule issue. It's a zoning issue.
Right.
And what reasonable conditions, there are Supreme Court decisions on this subject, can you impose on a zoning request without it being a regulatory vacate?
Okay. I'm not aware of the village, taking this extra step. I just haven't seen us do it. If we did it, would we get sued? Yeah, probably not. But it's not necessarily good practice. But anyway, I haven't counted the votes. I see 2 votes that say they should be required to do some kind of Uber ADA.
Well, I'm raising my hand to ask a question. When you're
No, go ahead.
I'm not thinking voting. The handicap parking spaces for the building, principally be located in the parking lot?
They're saying yes.
Right. Next to that entrance, no doubt. In the corner. And I gotta say, from a commercial leasing perspective, it would be bizarre if you went to all the trouble with these lovely people and put in that corridor that we've asked you to put in, do everything else, and not spend the $12 extra to, I mean, we've all been through ADA doors, although we don't know what the technical specs are. We've all been through them. And it's not that big a deal, and they're pretty normal. Would you commit that if it's not unreasonable, a burden on you, you would put in this ADA interest fund? If it's not an unreasonable burden. If there's something screwy that nobody knows about, you go, oh my God, you just had $1 million to cost the building. I can't do that. That would be stupid. No, I'm just asking if you do that.
Saying that you are not going to say yes to the request. The hearing says that I am against ADA standards.
No. I'm asking it the other way.
I'm going to do what's best for this building. I'm not going to spend money to build the structure. It's not reasonable for you to think that you will try to cut a corner door.
Exactly. That's my point.
Because you're asking right now, so there's outside of the bizarre to me, putting a hand, it's not going to be the requirement of what I'm asking.
Okay.
I want you to understand what it's not. The ADA building is 100% has been designed to be. We'll go above and beyond that. I just don't know how to do it. I don't know what that is. I don't want to do this. That's it.
And the thrust of my question was actually to point out that I think it was my own personal, uneducated opinion, because I'm not a developer, is that it would be bizarre and unprofitable to go to all that trouble and then not have handicap accessibility. But,
It's really the thought is correct.
you know, which is why I was suggesting that you might be able to provide insurance. But I understand your point of view that you feel like you're getting something on top of everything else that you've done at the last second without any opportunity to consider the details and what it really means. And I appreciate that. I do. And I want your project to go ahead. So, okay. Frankly, personally, I would just say yes, because I think there's going to be an ADA door, and I will be shocked if there isn't, next to the handicap parking spaces in the parking.
Okay.
I had come to the same conclusion before you made the assumption.
I stand corrected. Okay. The suggestion is, I don't want to have to vote and have it go down unnecessarily. I'm sensing a majority for approving the special use permit with a further amendment to what the zoning board asked for, which is the hallway going all the way through. And you know, I sense that's where a majority of the board is, but maybe not everybody. Unless there's further discussion, is there a motion to do that?
Motion to do that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, let's have a roll call.
Sorry, I do need notes, 'cause
Okay.
I can't remember anything. Okay, sorry about that. Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listner.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney.
Yes.
Trustee Onderdonk. Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Vree.
Yes.
The motion carries. Thank you. We really want that ADA door, but, you know, we all want to make each other happy, and we hope to make each other happy going forward. That includes not towing any cars away from the parking lot, for example, but that's not being required here. working with us. Good luck with the project. We have really good people, starting with Taylor, to make sure this becomes successful. Thanks. Okay. That was the last item of regular business. Is there any other business anyone wants to raise? Okay, if not, is there a motion to temporarily adjourn to closed session to cover the one remaining item of 2C11, probable or imminent litigation?
So moved.
I think we need a roll call for
We
that?
do.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listener.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney.
Yes.
Trustee Onderdunk. Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Reed.
Yes.